Hello, today I am so excited and thrilled to have a teacher that's in the charter school systems in North Carolina, and she's teaching a life skills program, and she has been for 8 years. And I would like to introduce Elizabeth Osbourne. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, well, let's get started. We were speaking a little before I hit the record button, and you teach fourth, fifth, and sixth graders life skills. Can you tell us a little bit more about the life skills program and some of the topics that you teach?
Yes, so it's an elective for the sixth graders, and then I'm considered a special with the fourth and fifth graders. I meet with them twice a week, but the sixth graders, it's every day. Some of the things I've done with them are a food and nutrition unit.
Mhm.
Not so much thinking about low fat, low sugar, but sustainable, local food and food evoking memories. And I've used that Netflix series Cooked
Yes.
with Michael Pollan, and kids get to bring in their own special dish that means something to them. Maybe their grandmother made it for their birthday, or they have it. It's just a really great way for kids to connect with food and be able to share with others. I've done a sewing unit where we've hand stitched monster dolls,
Mhm.
and um, I've done like letter writing, and then I introduced the manners unit. I don't know, about 5 years or so ago. I was um, yeah, I just was looking at my sixth graders thinking, we need to just a little something.
Yeah, just a little polish. That's great. I love the idea of making connections with food. That was a really fun memory from my childhood. And also being in North Carolina with all the agriculture here,
Yeah.
have a lot to work with. I'm sure any of your students from farms or family farms?
Yes, I do have quite a few students. I have a girl whose family runs Reverence Farm in Hall, and I have somebody whose mother does microgreens. So I have a lot of different connections and resources. And where the school is located in Hall, within, I don't know, maybe even just 2 miles, there's a lot of resources that I've been able to tap into.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Beautiful country too. How long have you been teaching?
I have been at Hall for 8 years. Prior to that, I was actually a homeschool mother, and I taught for 14 years.
Hmm.
And I learned how to be very resourceful.
Yes, and right now with all of what's going on in our world, you could, I'm sure, provide a lot of value to these parents on homeschooling because we've all been in the world of shock with having to
Yeah.
balance
Mhm.
our work and our homeschooling all at the same time. So 14 years, that's commendable. And you have two children, if I remember?
I actually have three.
Okay.
Daughter who's 27, son who's 25, and then I have one who's 23 that will be graduating.
Oh,
He's one of those that can't do the ceremony.
oh, I know, I know. In my neighborhood, I see all the signs for the high school students that can't graduate, and it's a sad, that's a sad situation right now.
But it's exciting. He's just finished up with Appalachian in nursing, so
Oh,
he'll
fantastic.
he'll be
And
employed. Great.
absolutely, oh, so needed, so needed. Do you have a favorite subject to teach?
Um, I really like. I would have to say the foods unit, just because I love to bake and I love to cook, and I
Hmm.
think food is a, like you mentioned before, a strong connection.
It is. I can so relate to that. My mother was a good Southern cook. My grandparents had farms and so forth. And that is one of my fondest childhood memories. So, how do you feel when you teach children?
I do feel energized. I feel imaginative,
Yeah.
because I try to figure out a way to hook them into get them to buy into what I'm trying to sell,
Mm-hmm.
and that takes creativity on my part. I don't have a textbook. Um, I on my class syllabus that I have to do, the only things I require of the students is a desire, a sense of humor, and a desire to try new things.
Oh, fantastic. I like the part about the sense of humor.
Yeah. Oh, you got to have that.
Yeah, on both sides, no question. And why did you choose to include the manners topic in your classroom? I know you mentioned you need a little polish on their table
Right.
manners, but
Right.
what are some
Well,
other benefits?
I think, well, it just sort of really melded nicely with the food unit. I think after the food unit, I'm like, okay, well, now that we have this food, you know, what do you do at the table? And it just sort of melded into that. And what was your question? I'm sorry.
Why did you choose to include the topic of manners
Why
overall?
overall, because I also work with high school seniors in an internship program.
Mhm.
And one of the most important things, aspects of the internship program or life in general, is communication.
Mhm.
And you have one chance to make a first impression, and that can make or break whether or not you get a college scholarship. It can make or break whether or not you get a job. If you are not well versed in manners and communication etiquette, it can make or break whether or not you can, yeah, have opportunities.
Exactly, yes, and that's really the core. I know in the past few years, whether I'm speaking with a parent, a teacher, or even HR in corporate in the business world, communication skills have become paramount because children are not hearing their parents on the phone because we don't pick up the phone anymore and just have a conversation. Some of us still do, but many people, decide to text now. So children are not hearing us in dialogue or in conversation, and it's affecting them and the way they build relationships and the way they communicate. So I just think basically sitting down in a classroom and having a conversation and learning how to involve others and not just talk about yourself is really important for children to learn those skills.
And I was able to partner with the Eddie Pub, a restaurant in Saxbahaw, to
Mhm.
have lunches, sort of a slow lunch for the students. They usually rather rush their peanut butter and jelly and then run around and play. But
Right.
this gives students an opportunity, almost 45 minutes once a month, just to sit down and have a family style 3-course meal. And we do a little bit of manners there. You have to pass the plate and thank the host and hostess, clean off the table. So it gives them an opportunity with their peers to practice a little bit of manners.
I think it's fantastic. I love the idea of a slow lunch.
Yes.
That
And the
is
kids
a
do too.
yeah, I'm sure they enjoy it without just chewing a sandwich and running out. And like you
Right.
said, they have some structure and some guidelines. I think that's fantastic. You decided to be creative with teaching manners when we had our conversation earlier this week, and you had quite a few great ideas on how to make it more engaging and fun. Can you share some of those tips with us?
Well, one of the ones that I think the kids really enjoyed was to take a place setting, salad plate, bread plate, dinner plate, fork knobs, salad fork, serious spoons, placemat napkin, and even a glass, and place them in a box, blindfold the students, and they reach in and have to do a place setting with their eyes closed.
Mm-hmm.
If they can do it with their eyes closed, they can do it with them open.
Yes, that's right. I remember that. I love that idea. That's a fun activity for them.
And I was running out of time, and last semester I couldn't cover all the units because a lot of people equate manners with sitting at the table.
Mm-hmm.
But there's social media manners, there's telephone manners, there's public transportation manners, um, and etiquette. So I grouped students up in groups of 3 or 4 and gave them a specific topic to come back. And I was actually kind of surprised that the telephone manners, that kids that do not talk on the telephone, it
Mm-hmm.
put them in touch with what do you do when somebody calls that you aren't familiar with? How do you take a message on
Mm-hmm.
the how do you say wrong number? So it was so that was a good experience.
Great. I think that's wonderful. I love the blindfolded. I'm going to try that myself.
Oh yeah, it is fun, and the kids find it a challenge.
Yes, I bet so, especially when you're just learning. I think that's great. What was your favorite module in the Manners to Go curriculum?
Um, you had 3: first impressions, table manners, and communication. And
Hmm.
honestly, it was hard for me to pick because although they stand alone, I think you can't have one without the other.
Yes.
You can't have table manners without having good communication and making a first impression. But I will have to say the communication, because I think that's the cornerstone and the foundation for
Mhm.
anything moving forward with the program. But and I also like the me on Mondays.
I know. That's one of my favorites too in the communication skills module.
And it where a student stands up and speaks about themselves, and like any opportunity to give students a chance to speak, to stand up and share in front of the class.
Hmm.
Some students would rather crawl under the table than do that, but the more they practice, the better they get.
So true, so true. And and also it can be manners on Monday, it can be manners on Wednesday. It
Right,
doesn't
right,
really matter. But the great thing about Monday is, you get the week started, you get them talking
right.
about themselves, and also they can talk about their weekend. I remember one little boy, and he was in uh, probably, this was an after school program. He was probably in the first grade, if I remember correctly. And I'll never forget his name. His name is Graham. And he would come in every Monday afternoon and tell me he'd been to Norway over the weekend. And I, just so those little stories, from that exercise. I was in Norway, and he used to wear a little puffy coat. It was up in Philadelphia, and he would wear a puffy coat. He would say, I wore my farm coat. He would call it his farm coat in Norway. So just some really nice, inspiring stories. And of course, you never know what children are going to come up
Yeah,
with.
yeah, that's really cool. But I even thought about stretching it just to have a manners on Monday instead of trying to do the unit and just, I don't know, a few weeks' time, but have reminders throughout the entire year on Monday.
Oh, yes, great idea. Great. I love that idea. Well, it has been such a pleasure spending time with you. And we have had other conversations about me making a visit at your school, which I hope that we're going to take it a month at a time right now, but and keep our fingers crossed that I can make a visit, hopefully in person, certainly by Zoom, but would really love to go out and see you and have lunch. A slow lunch. We'll do a slow lunch. A slow lunch. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. I so appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
stay well. Bye-bye.